Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40k Universe. I am your host Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about the Greater Demons of Chaos. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40k lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions, please comment down below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the 4 Greater Demons of Chaos. Amongst the teeming demonic hordes of chaos, a greater demon is the most powerful. They are the incarnations of their chaos god, living embodiments of everything chaos represents. They are the guardians of their god's realm and executioners of their will. Often the greater demons lead incursions into mortal worlds and act as the heralds of the ruinous powers of chaos to champions of chaos and chaos sorcerers. Yet they still have their own ambitions and plans, each contributing to a part of the greater consciousness of the dark gods. In real space, greater demons manifest as huge, terrifying creatures capable of slaying scores of warriors and destroying even main battle tanks. They have strange, sorcerous powers drawn from psychic energies of the warp and are virtually impervious to mortal weapons. Summoning such a creature demands a high price, for it takes a tremendous amount of psychic energy for a greater demon to achieve corporality in the material universe. The price is always a sacrifice, the death or possession of a living being that acts as a gateway for the immaterium into the material realm. The rampant energies of a demon passing through the material universe inevitably destroys their host. As such, sacrifice is not usually the one performing the summoning. Each of the 4 major chaos gods have their own greater demons. Tzeentch has the Lords of Change, Slaanesh has the Keeper of Secrets, Khorne has the Bloodthirsters, and Nurgle has the Great Unclean Ones. A Lord of Change, also called a Supreme Mutator, or one of Tzeentch's eyes, is an insidious greater demon of the chaos god of change and sorcery. These greater demons appear as towering beings with gangling limbs and a deceptively delicate look. Their long, spiny bodies are topped by a savage, cruel avian head, resting on a long, crooked neck. Their hunched shoulders are often draped with what looks like robes from a high priest or a court wizard from ages long past. Their bent, bird-like legs are scaly and end in vicious talons. Their lank arms terminate in broad, clawed hands. Great feathered wings sprout from their shoulder blades, glittering and glistening with 1,000 impossible colors. The bones of a Lord of Change are hollow, and despite their enormous size, they barely seem capable of supporting their own weight, often leaning up against immense staffs, etched with innumerable eldritch signs and sigils. Most Lords of Change carry these long ceremonial staffs, which they use to channel their considerable psychic power. These powerful demonic servants of Tzeentch carry themselves with a regal grace, though when driven to action, their savagery is remarkable. All Lords of Change are fearsome fighters, serpent-quick with skin like iron. They are also lore masters and possess a thorough knowledge of the great feints and fighting techniques of the galaxy. To fence with the Lord of Change is to invite one's own ruin. Many overzealous warriors have been felled by their vicious claws, cruel curved beaks, and terrible reaping staffs, disemboweled before they can even lift their blade. These combination of features are as bewildering as they are terrifying, and they are ever-changing, with multi-hued forms that defy mortal reason or logic. However, its most haunting feature are its eyes. Within their infinite depths lies a paradoxical wisdom of Tzeentch, and none can withstand the substantial scrutiny of the Lord of Change's gaze without losing their sanity. It is said that when a Lord of Change looks upon a man, the man's soul is open like a book, revealing his hopes and dreams, as well as the truth of his ultimate failures or successes. Lords of Change are the embodiment of Tzeentch's delight in sorcery, deception, and knowledge. They are the chief agents of the Architect of Fate, and the most powerful of his demonic minions. Despite possessing a small fragment of the immeasurable wisdom of their masters, even they are unwitting pawns to Tzeentch's great and unfathomable plans, a plot of limitless complexity that will come to fruition at the end of time. A greater demon of Tzeentch is driven by the need to redirect the predictable course of history itself, and to see it upon a new, unexpected path. Because of this, a Lord of Change revels in dashing the hopes of the ambitious upon the ground, even while raising penniless nobodies to the pinnacle of power. A Lord of Change is blessed with a multi-layered cunning and blazing intelligence, as well as a deep understanding of the casualty that drives the galaxy in its well-worn rut. There is nothing a Lord of Change despises more than the entrapping comfort of stability and familiarity, and nothing that will please one more than to see the world broken and made anew. A greater demon of Tzeentch delights in bringing order to ruin, so that all may be reshaped and directed to a new path before that too is changed. His minions move throughout real space, undertaking whatever task he has set for them. The killing of a minor mortal, a whisper in a commander's ear, the stealing of a worthless artifact, and 1,000 other seemingly unrelated occurrences that are mistaken for happenstance. Yet each falls into the greater demon's own devious plan, and furthers his labyrinthian schemes. Lords of Change tend to work behind the scenes, pulling puppet strings from the shadows. So subtle are these manipulations, and so skilled, that often the playthings of the Lord of Change remain unaware that they are in the thralls of a deadly demon. Secret chaos cults, heresies, revolutionaries, and even imperial planetary governors have all fallen under the thrall of a Lord of Change at one point or another. Even Tzeentch's bitter foes can be manipulated into fulfilling the great deceiver's end. Under his most powerful demon's careful guidance, brothers can turn against brothers, friend against friend, and even the most zealot of inquisitors can stumble from the path of righteousness. To confront a Lord of Change is to wander through a mist of lies, ever unsure of one's own actions, one false step away from complete corruption. In the rare instance that a Lord of Change is beset, its schemes sundered, and its plans laid to ruin, it will fight like a cornered animal, drawing upon its incredible sorcerous powers to fell its foe directly where deceit and deception have failed. Lords of Change are the greatest chaos sorcerers in the galaxy, and their mastery of magic is without peer. The mightiest psychic powers and spells employed by feeble human psychers and sorcerers are the idle cantrips of a Lord of Change, for a greater demon of Tzeentch is a creature of undiluted warp energy, and the mortal world quakes at its touch. With the merest flick of an elegant claw, bodies mutate and wither, buildings twist and melt, and beings of madness and horror spring forth from running rivers of flesh. Nothing that is done cannot be undone. Nothing that is made cannot be unmade. To prevail against the Lord of Change, one's faith and convictions must be firmer than the foundation of the stars. The Emperor protects, but one's faith must be ironclad in the face of such a horror. The constant appraisal of the galaxy and the interference in its process is not always so subtle. Change can also be sudden and violent, and the Lord of Change will readily wage war to further his own unknown aims. Though these greater demons prefer to remain uncommitted in battle, it is not through lack of courage or ferociousness, but because they wish to direct its forces and control the ebb and flow of the fighting. Few have ever been able to best the Lord of Change, for their patron god is the master of destiny itself, and his greatest servants possess a portion of this power. Equally as terrifying as the Lords of Change are the Keeper of Secrets. There is nothing so repulsive, yet charming, as a greater demon known as the Keeper of Secrets, the closest companion and servant of Slaanesh, and the leaders of his Legion of Excess. Covered in glamour and mind-dulling musk, these monstrous demons mask their true nature with supernatural allure. Their powerful muscular bodies are always decked with jewels that hold the souls of their choicest victims, and their razor-sharp claws are always decorated with brightly colored lacquer. A Keeper of Secrets is a highly intelligent creature, a being whose silver tongue and languished gestures belie its true power. It is claimed these are the most entrancing of all immortals, and that to look upon one is to surrender every last shred of self-will. A greater demon of Slaanesh knows the most intimate desires of every mortal being, and will use this horrific knowledge to gain power over its foes, seducing them with whispered promises they cannot hope to resist. Few who have encountered these demons can describe the shame of their desire, nor the lust for violence and depravity that overwhelms their rational sense in its presence. But the Keeper of Secrets is more than just a master of the psyche. On the field of battle, it is a graceful yet vicious killer that delights in the excessive wanton violence it unleashes. Pain and pleasure are irrevocably blended in the minds of Slaaneshi greater demons, meaning that their blissful enjoyment of battle is unmatched in or outside of the warp. However, Keepers of Secrets are only used by Slaanesh when all else has failed, for violence is but a small element of the Dark Prince's nature. When sheer, uncompromising force is the only course left, Slaanesh tasks his greater demons to deliver it in excess. Keepers of Secrets take sadistic pleasure in all acts of killing and torture, considering excruciatingly painful deaths as another form of creative expression. They take delight in the interplay of explosions and horror, feeding upon the strong emotions triggered by mortals as they are torn apart. Their limbs are both delicate and hideously strong at the same time, move in blinding strikes as they eviscerate their opponents, spilling blood in pleasing patterns and spreading bodies apart in an exotic tapestry. The desperate pleas of mercy and the berserker battle cries of blood-crazed warriors are like music to these greater demons' ears, a delectable opera that honors Slaanesh. The ways of murder are many, and the Keeper of Secrets must explore them all. On the field of battle, the Keeper of Secrets are rarely encountered alone. They are invariably accompanied by swarms of prancing demonettes and ubiquitous lesser demons of the Prince of Chaos. They dance across the killing fields, singing the praise of their master and dealing death to the armies of men. Worst of all, the demonettes often avoid killing the enemy's greatest champions and leaders, slaying or corrupting lesser troops as a delectable foretaste of the glorious spectacle that is the coming of the Keeper of Secrets. The champions are taunted and teased by the demonettes until the battlefield is carpeted with the corpses of the twitching dead, and when the greater demon appears, the slaughter and corruption truly begins. As well as being peerless warriors, a Keeper of Secrets is said to possess arcane knowledge of many mystical arts. It is said that they can hear anything that is said anywhere in any dimension, and it is this ability that earned them the moniker of Keeper of Secrets. They have also been known to trade their knowledge for gifts of services. Using the secrets at their disposal, they are able to weave intricate spells of misdirection and mystification, leading the weak to their inevitable doom and sending the strong on fool's errands. A Keeper of Secrets can invade the thoughts and senses of its enemies, penetrating their every psychic defense, sending them visions of glory, stroking their egos, and stoking their innermost desires to lead the fools astray. To corrupt those warriors who are pure at heart and possess noble intent is the greatest of their skills, for they will inevitably turn every quest for glory into a sacrifice upon the altar of the Lord of Pleasure's perverse will. For a Keeper of Secrets, their mortal enemies are the Bloodthirsters. A Bloodthirster is a greater demon of the Chaos God Khorne. He is the manifestation of the unreasoning rage and savagery of total war. Khorne takes the essence of brutality and fills these greater demons with power that comes from the raw and violent emotions of psychically sensitive beings in real space. Every blow ever struck, every life ever taken in anger, distilled into a single, towering form of iron and sinew. As the living embodiment of war, rage, and murder, Bloodthirsters represent the bloodiest side of warfare and are renowned as the greatest warriors amongst demonkind. Only the boldest and most heroic of mortal champions would ever stand the slimmest chance of survival in combat with a Bloodthirster, and even then, he has a small chance of victory. In appearance, these savage monsters resemble the stereotypical demons of ancient Terra. At over 30 feet tall, they tower over mortals. Their skin is a deep red of encrusted blood. Their gore-flecked hides are covered in crimson fur, the color of spilt blood, and their eyes are milky white without visible irises or pupils. Their feet are hooved, and the ground burns at their passing. Their bodies are impossibly muscular and covered in iron-tipped barbs. From their backs sprout gigantic bat-like wings, enabling them to soar over the battlefield before diving into the fiercest and bloodiest areas of battle, striking at will. Most hideous of all are their faces, which are bestial, almost canine, the visage of Khorne's most favored beings in the universe. Their snarling maws are filled with fangs the size of mortal swords. Bloodthirsters wear ancient, ornate armor, sections of which are adorned with the glowing skull of the Mark of Khorne as a sign of his blessing. The iconography of his armor is usually bronze or iron black, upon which the glowing red runes of Khorne are proof against the most fearsome of psychic attacks, a fact that strikes utter horror into the hearts of the most accomplished of battle psychers. True to the Lord of Rage, a Bloodthirster's armor is also proof against the ranged weapons of any coward that would dare attempt to strike them down from a distance, rather than engaging them in righteous close combat. As well as their razor-sharp claws, the greater demons of Khorne are known to carry two primary weapons which epitomize murder. The first is a massive demonic battle axe, which is the iconic weapon of Khorne, forged in the heat of the rage of the Lord of War, and imbued with the essence of caged greater demons. The keen-edged blade is at least the height of a space marine, and its haft several times longer. Perhaps the most powerful weapons ever created, these gigantic battle axes can cleave an armored battle tank in half. These weapons not only destroy the foe's physical body, but often consume their souls as well, as an offering to the blood god. The second weapon a bloodthirster carries is a long, barbed whip, which is capable of dealing death from range. Since bloodthirsters are obsessed with spreading death and destruction, the use of such a weapon enables them to strike down a distant foe with the shattering power of their deafening bellow. Though not as satisfying as cleaving apart a foe with a sweep of their axe, they do allow a bloodthirster to reach and destroy even the fastest and most agile of their foes. But the bloodthirsters of Khorne are not simple, mindless berserker engines of war. They are the generals and ultimate champions of the demonic legion of the blood god. Countless lesser demons march beneath them in unstoppable assaults against the enemies of their master and his chosen mortal servants. Bloodthirsters are the masters of every tactic that leads to spilling blood. They hate stealth and guile. They see it as a coward's way, and direct their forces towards the total defeat of their enemies with stunning brutality. Against such a combination of rage and leadership, none can stand. There are 8 distinct types of bloodthirsters amongst the demonic legions of Khorne, but it would be a fatal error to believe that even the lowest ranked, the bloodthirsters of the 8th host, are in some way lesser warriors than their kin, or that they possess a reduced threat. In truth, only those versed in demonic lore have any notion of the varied ranks of bloodthirsters, for all of them seem equally terrifying and destructive to the mortals who feel their ire upon the battlefield. Nonetheless, each of the 8 ranks of bloodthirsters possesses their own lethal skills, armaments, and titles. Those of the 8th host, for example, are known as bloodthirsters of unfettered fury. They are the most numerous of the Lord of Skull's greater demons. In one fist, these colossal fiends carry a massive axe of Khorne, which they can carve battle tanks in two with. On the other hand, the bloodthirster wields a vicious lash of Khorne, immense whips studded with brass spikes. These weapons slice through the air with a thunderous crack, breaking necks and entangling limbs, or driving on the bloodletters and fleshhounds around them. These monstrous beings are skilled generals, and are often seen commanding Khorne's demonic legions in attacks in real space. By comparison, those of the 6th rank, known as the bloodthirsters of insensate rage, are the most mindlessly savage of their kind. The fires of Khorne's forge fill their chests, stoking their fury to a state that renders them utterly incoherent with anger. So great is their ire-fueled strength that these demons are able to heft immense brass axes as tall as a fortress gate, and the cohorts of Khorne are driven into a frenzy in the wake of their furnace-hot fury. The arrival of such an entity on the battlefield heralds the coming of the end. And the only other known rank within Imperial records is the infamous bloodthirsters of the 3rd host, known as the Wrath of Khorne. Soaring through the skies on vast, leathery wings, Wrath of Khorne bloodthirsters scour the battlefield for their prey. These arrogant huntsmen are charged by Khorne with a sacred duty, humbling the mightiest heroes of the foe and butchering them in the name of the Lord of Battle. Breathing jets of hellfire, wielding a blood flail and monstrous axe of Khorne, there is no greater champion of war. And the last of the greater demons are the Great Unclean Ones. A Great Unclean One is a grotesque greater demon of the plague god Nurgle, the chaos god of disease, death, and decay. They are amongst Grandfather Nurgle's greatest servants, bearers of his most sacred plagues and poxes. These monsters are squat and mountainous, covered in rotting flesh and open sores that weep foul rivers of pus. Hot ropes of intestines drip out of huge tears in their enormous, bloated, and distended bellies. This horrific girth is supported by 2 impossibly small and atrophied-looking legs, and their large, bulbous heads are crowned by enormous, stag-like antlers. To a mortal's eyes, these greater demons of Nurgle are undoubtedly the foulest of all the demonic servants of the ruinous powers. Each of these great unclean ones is shaped in the fashion of Nurgle himself, fly-blown, maggot-ridden innards spilling into view through the tears and gashes in his swollen belly as he lumbers forward. Clusters of pus are always erupting from his hide, birthing small swarms of giggling nurglings, noxious juices seeping from dozens of infected sores, leaving a glistening trail of mucus in the great unclean one's wake. Few mortals have the stomach, let alone the will, to oppose such a being. Great unclean ones are seldom deathlike or morbid in character. In fact, they are usually motivated by the same trivial enthusiasm that drives the living. They are gregarious and even sentimental in their nature, with a remarkable fondness for their followers. They often refer to their followers as their children, and take great pride in their appearance and oddly endearing behavior. It is not uncommon for great unclean ones to compete amongst themselves in the matter of spreading Nurgle's plaguesome blessings across the galaxy. They take pride in the achievements of their fellow servants of Nurgle, proclaiming joyfully the splendors of the poxes and sores evidenced by those around them, and laugh heartily at the death and destruction created in the name of Nurgle. Their appearance on the mortal plane is heralded with an ear-shattering howl of glee as they burst through the veil of reality, delighted to walk upon real space once again, spreading their bounty of plagues upon mortals. Often disease and desolation on a planetary scale herald their arrival, as entire populations are stricken with corruption of the Plague Lord's favorite plague, which is known as Nurgle's Rot. This disease is the most contagious and most heinous of all sicknesses, poxes, and fevers Father Nurgle has ever conceived. The afflicted mortals slowly suffer as the plague ravages their bodies, turning them into bloated, rotting, living corpses before they succumb to their inevitable agonizing demise. The bile-slick great unclean one then waddles through the collapsed cities and mounds of dying, happily bestowing his blessings, borne aloft on a living tide of Nurglings. Driven to coordinate Nurgle's chaotic endeavors, a great unclean one seeks to instill purpose and function in the demonic legions under his command. Globules of yellow-green spit fly from his mouth as the great unclean one urges his minions onward. With grumbles, the greater demon harries those who are tardy in advancing, or who seem less energetic in the pursuit of the goals of Grandfather Nurgle. The love of their minions fill a great unclean one with joy, but they are consumed with indignation when a foe seeks to thwart Nurgle, and this escalates to rage when his underlings are harmed. When roused to war, a great unclean one is a terrifying sight to behold. Though ponderous, they are but unstoppable on the advance, shrugging off the bolts and blades of the foe as though they were nothing but bothersome insects. Aided by the momentum of his charge, a great unclean one will throw his immense bulk upon the victim with all the force it can muster, the selfless act of generosity warming its rotten heart. Those that survive the charge are met with a combination of diseased plague flails, iron-bladed bile swords, filth-encrusted bile blades, and rusted doomsday bells. It is not physical attacks alone that make a great unclean one so dangerous. By breathing deeply on the festering powers of the war, he can summon a pestilent wind to wither his foes, vomit forth streaming tides of filth, maggots, and mucus, or bless his underlings with new tumorous growths that cover the worst of wounds. If threatened with bodily harm, the thousands of diminutive Nurglings that follow in the greater demon's wake will attack an unwary opponent, dragging them down in a murderous wave the instant their father is attacked. Naturally born carrion creatures, numbering in the thousands, gather around the greater demon to protect it and trail in its wake. Hordes of sky-blackening flies, rats, vultures, crows, and worms inevitably follow a great unclean one's passing. Great unclean ones long ago became inured to pain, a result of their abundant infections, plagues, and virulent sores. Their truly massive size and their ability to withstand almost any level of injury or pain make them dangerous adversaries, as they can absorb astounding amounts of damage before finally falling to the attack of their foe. These demon lords possess a hellish prowess which seems at odds with their bulk and squat stature. They barrel into the enemies, laughing boisterously, all the while laying out their colossal rusty cleavers and seven-headed plague flails. The thick clouds of flies, which feast at their open sores, disrupt the attacks of their enemies and spread the putrid diseases of their host. All the while, the cooing Nurglings form a hideous vanguard for their patriarch, and in a playful gesture, do all they can to spread their father's beloved plagues to all those nearby. And those were 40 facts on the 4 greater demons of chaos. Which one of those is your favorite? Comment down in the comment section below. To me, the great unclean one is probably the most badass in terms of the lore, because he's just happy. he's going out spreading Nurgle's diseases. It's kind of like Nurgle says, you know what, go out there, have some fun, kill some people, whereas all the other demons are like just aggressive and like evil. I feel like the great unclean ones have like a humorous twist to the grim darkness, so I think those are my favorite. I want to take this time to thank our patrons on Patreon. Because of them, we can create these videos. If you guys want to support us, the link is down in the description. It's just $1 a month. If you don't want to support us on Patreon, we understand. Liking, commenting, and sharing helps out the channel. We also have objective markers that we are selling. Link in the description for that as well. These objective markers, it's 1 through 6, just like a regular tabletop 40k game, and each one of them has special... or has a theme to it that correlates to one of the 40k races. So those are limited. We only made a batch of 30, and that's it. Once that's sold, it's sold. So if you guys want to jump on over there, support the channel, and get cool stuff, I appreciate it. Thanks for everything, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.